Are you getting that blah feeling this time of year? It's not uncommon to feel this time of year in northern hemisphere. We're to that time of year where it's getting dark early. It's yes, the days are getting longer, but it's still getting dark early. We've got more clothes on because it's super cold outside. We're not getting as much sunlight. Basically, from the fall equinox to the spring equinox is when we kind of see that shift. So we've got a while before we get that vitamin D production back. And ultimately, what we're going to dive into today is how you can get through these times, how you can actually work to improve how you feel through this time and make things a little bit easier. I'm Dr. Jeff Cumro, and over the past 15 years, I've been blessed to work with over 5,000 patients. And it's a very common thing in this part of the world to see that little blah feeling, that little bit of seasonal affective disorder, that little bit of depression that comes at this time of year. And there are a few different reasons for this, but ultimately what it comes down to is it's not very nice outside, right? So we're not getting outside, we're not enjoying that weather, we're not enjoying the vitamin D production. We have less interaction with other people, more TV time, different things like that. So it's a difficult time of year, and what we're going to dive into today are the things that you can do to help improve that. And the first thing we're going to look at is something that a lot of people don't go with, right? A lot of people say vitamin D, a lot of people say exercise, different things like that. We're going to talk about those things, but the first thing is looking at your diet. What does your diet have in it? And the reason that your diet is so important is we weren't really designed to eat carbohydrates this time of year, right? Because during during our ancestral periods, when you look back thousands of years, no plants are growing this time of year. So it's either dried things that they might have had a little bit of, or they were going out and they were getting meat of some variety. They were eating those healthy fats and those proteins, and that's something that we can go with this time of year is knocking down some of that carbohydrate expression. And when we do that, it changes our physiological output, it changes our metabolism, and we have a little bit better energy production. If you look at the populations of like Inuits and different people like that, way up in the northern hemisphere, they eat a very high fat, a very high protein diet, and that's really all they eat for the most part. They don't really have much for carbs. So if you're thinking that you have to have those carbs, it's not completely true. And when we can get that energy production a little bit better, it makes a big difference for how you feel mentally, physically, and emotionally even. So number one is look at your diet and what kind of adjustments can you make to reduce the refined carbs, reduce the sugar, and work on a more whole food, natural type of diet, because it is something that makes a big difference here. Second one, vitamin D is very, very important, right? It's something that our body needs for immunity. It's something that helps with the inflammatory response. It helps with calcium absorption. There's a bunch of different factors that it plays a role in. So it is a very, very important thing. And we can't really make vitamin D real efficiently without the proper sun power. And that's something that right now we don't have up here. And even if we did have it up here, nobody's going outside in with skin showing to actually get there. It's dangerous to do, right? So we've got to kind of supplement some of that. And obviously go and get your levels tested before you get that. It can go toxic with vitamin D. So knowing what your level is something that I would recommend to most people at all times, okay? Now, with that said, almost everybody that I test is low in this. They're insufficient anyway. So they're in the 20s or below. And in the 20s would still be considered insufficient. I like the levels to be anywhere from 40 to 60 or even up to 70, 80. 100 is what's considered toxic. So we've got to know what our levels are. We've got to have an idea of where we're at and then supplementing for that. And there's different ways of supplementing for that. There's liquid. Vitamin D with K is better than just vitamin D3. It does matter what kind of vitamin D you get. So the vitamin D OH25, vitamin D3 is going to be the best variety for you. If you need a recommendation, drop me a comment and we can discuss getting something figured out as far as that. But ultimately, know your levels first, because if we don't know what your levels are and you start supplementing for that, you can have problems with your liver. You can have problems. I got a little higher than what I want. My levels are not what they I guess should be, really. When I get up around 90, I start getting muscle spasms. So I don't have any changes in my liver. I don't have any changes in anything else, but I start getting muscle spasms. So you may have something totally different, and we're going to have to pay attention to you personally, right? So this is not it's not healthcare advice. This is just Informational purposes, your levels may be different than somebody else's. What is considered toxic for somebody else may be just fine for you. What is considered non-toxic for somebody else may be toxic to you. We've got to listen to our body. We've got to know where you're at. So getting it tested is the first thing. But taking vitamin D, and I personally take 5,000 IU a day. I do it year round, and I don't have any problems with that. If I take higher doses than that, then I have problems. What some protocols will say is take 25,000 for 3 months and then drop it down to 5,000 every day from there. Different things we've got to track. Depends on what healthcare. Talk to your provider, make a plan for you, and go from there. So that's vitamin D. Vitamin D is going to be something, like I said, it helps with immunity. So if you find yourself constantly sick this time of year, vitamin D may be a good fit for you. If you find yourself with that depressed feeling, vitamin D may be a good thing for you. There's multiple different pathways that it plays a role in. And if we don't have enough, it can affect your health, right? So getting that in there can help you get through this period. Exercise is going to be extremely important. Why is exercise so important? Exercise stimulates the brain. It stimulates the metabolism. It fires these different pathways that we need. It gets blood flow going. It opens up divergent pathways. And what I mean by that, when we get into a depressed state, a lot of times we focus on the problems and we sit there and we think about the problem and we think about the problem and we think about the problem. And when we're so focused on this door right here that we can't get through, we don't realize that the wall ends right over here and we could just walk out and over it. But as we open up that divergent thinking and we start seeing different possibilities for ourselves, hey, I could try this, or I could try this, or I could try this. We can see that way around that wall to get around the problem, right? And obviously the wall and the door are metaphorical in this. It doesn't matter what your problems are, but we tend to focus on whatever that problem is. And we sit there and we just focus on that problem and how it's miserable and all these things. We've got to open up possibilities of how to get around that problem. Exercise can do that. Like I said, it stimulates the brain. So as we start to get more stimulation of the brain, what do we get? More alert, which is something that depression knocks down, right? So as we get that alertness, as we get that blood flow, it brings just joy in general to many people. Yes, it is miserable as you go through it, but when you get done, you feel better, right? So something that works for a lot of people. One of the best, most research-backed ways around depression is exercise, especially if you can do it outside. So if you find a day that's, decent outside, getting out and going for a walk, going for a jog, going for a bike ride, whatever it may be, that may be a great fit for you. Maybe going to the gym works better for you. The other aspect of going to the gym is the number 4 we're going to talk about is relationships, getting out and being with people. And we tend to stay away from some of this time of year. A, there's a lot of sickness going around. B, it gets dark earlier, so we're tired. We tend to spend more time with the TV and things like that. We don't have as many, picnics or company parties or different things like that to go to. So when we open up the possibilities of what we can do and we're around other people, we feel that connection. That connection releases oxytocin, and that oxytocin kind of counteracts some of that, depressed, dampened down feelings. So it really helps to boost us. And I guess number 5, just as a bonus here, is sleep. A lot of people get a lot of sleep this time of year. However, it's not necessarily the best quality sleep because they're not exercising. They're watching too much TV or spending too much time under blue light. Their diet isn't the best. They're not as hydrated. They're not getting the things that they need. So as we put all of this together, it's going to help with our sleep. We're going to have better quality sleep, which decreases the need for that extra sleep. I see a lot of people, they're like, I don't need to worry about that because I get 10 hours of sleep a night. Okay, if you need 10 hours of sleep every single night, that's a signal of a problem as well. They found that longevity, the people that get 7 and 9 hours of sleep have the most longevity. People that get more than that or people that get less than that tend to die earlier. Why is that? Because getting too much sleep, getting that 9, 10, 11 hours of sleep every night and needing that much sleep all the time signals that there is some other bigger problem going on, right? So we've got to get around that. And by doing these other things, we can help to minimize some of those risks. So diet, exercise, having a sleep routine, getting away from that blue light, all of that stuff can help with that. Get you back the energy that you need to get through this. So Stay with it, right? We're getting close. We're getting closer every day. The day's getting a little longer. That sun's coming back up this way. It's not too long until we get there. But if you are having problems and you need to talk to somebody, by all means, there are a lot of ways to go about this. So if you're in a bad spot, there are people out there to help. If you need connected with them, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you with that. But stick with it because it's coming. We're getting through this, and you're getting closer and closer every single day. If you do need a bonus one, red and infrared light can be very, very good. It helps to oxygenate tissues. It helps release dopamine, which dopamine regulation plays a role in depression. So it's something that can work very, very well. Again, talk to your provider before you do that. There are risks to some of these things. This is not medical advice. It is just informational purposes. But you're getting close. We're getting you there. And if you need anything, reach out. As always, I appreciate you paying attention. I know that that's your biggest resource, and I appreciate you spending some of that with me. So I will catch you on next week's video. You have yourself a phenomenal week.